Lone Star tick. I've got a cousin, two of his in-laws have got that. You can't eat beef, you can't eat dairy. And there's little kids in that neighborhood, and that really needs to be addressed. 2 weeks ago today, or yesterday, I called up here and I think I talked with Tina and with Kendall. And I asked, I said, well, you know, it can be addressed. And I understood it was within a week's time. Well, now it's been 2 weeks. So we really appreciate it that get addressed. Preferably, it's, you know, ASAP. That's it.
Jim, could you say that address one more time? So sorry.
Yes, it's the address that's concerned is 2009 East Spring Hill Court. As you're coming off 183rd, that's Spring Hill Drive. It's the first cul-de-sac on the right, and it's very visible. You know, we don't live in Mission Hills, but they're nice homes in there. So, and it's you know, the area is really, it's dividing the property around there. Yeah.
I love the Mission Hills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
You
concern.
bet, thanks, yeah. We'll sure get it taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Gary Smith. I live at 2021 East Spring Hill Court. So I'm right, I just look across the street, look at that place every day. There's stray cats that are running through the neighborhood. There's a lot of kids that live around there. I'd sure like to see something get done over that. I've talked to a lady here a while back, I think it's Tina Powell, about sidewalks. And out front there, right where the well, it's where the wheelchair ramps are that they go up. That thing is all busted out. She said she'd get back with me to see whose responsibility that was to fix. And she never did get back with me. I just want to know if I need to fix it, I'll fix it. But it's really, really dangerous with all these scooters and everything running up and down the road. Somebody's gonna get hurt. So I'd like somebody to let me know.
After the meeting, we'll have somebody get in touch with you.
I'd like to see how things work,
Sure.
like in our HOA, how they work. Does the city take responsibility or does the HOA take responsibility?
I think we've got the answer, but
Okay.
during this time.
I sure need, I need that answer.
Yeah, but after the meeting, we'll have.
Okay.
Or leave your phone number and we'll get a hold of you.
Okay. You want it
Thanks.
now?
Thank you, Gary.
We'll get it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Kind of comes under the heading sometimes if we don't know, we don't know. Grass grows pretty fast when you get 2 or 3 inches of rain every 2 or 3 days, so things is really kind of pop up. Item E, moving down the list here. Just want to check and see if anybody has any conflicts related to today's meeting. No. So we're good on item E. Item F, we don't have any appointments. Consent agenda, there's 4 items there. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review those. And I think Craig gave us a copy of the one that was added. Item 4, on the pump station improvements for 167th Street. And I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Corey seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Unfinished business, none. New business, item 1. CFO Brooke Carroll, show is yours. Take it away.
Okay, as I mentioned before we got started, we will hold true to the 1 hour time frame for our council meeting today, and whatever we don't cover on the general fund, we can finish up tomorrow night when we do streets, library, and bond and interest fund as well. So just to be respectful of your time, just, you know, we're gonna work through this. If we need to have a lot of discussion, I don't want us to feel rushed. We can pick it up tomorrow. We can even add meetings to our budget calendar. So in front of you, all of this stuff was emailed to you last week, but we went ahead and prepared a council packet printed items for you as well, so you can keep track of these. At our future budget workshops, I will give you additional inserts for your book, so you will have all the documents as we proceed. So you will find in your budget book of materials, tab number 1 is our budget calendar, and you can see from that we are making great progress on all of the items and deadlines that we have scheduled, and we started scheduling these early in January, and we're all the way through we're in June, we're almost hitting July now. We're right on schedule for our first workshop. I even crossed it off of our list. Tomorrow night we'll have another council workshop, and then our next workshop will be July 9th, and then our final one will be July 22nd, unless we decide to throw some additional meetings in there. Tab number 2 is the results from the budget community survey that we've given out. There were 42 responses from the community that took the survey. So, we put a broad array of items in that survey. There were items for the general fund, streets, community center, senior center, bond and interest, utility fund. So, it covered quite an array of items for the community to, engage with. As we prepared the budget, one of our guiding tools was our 10-year CIP. So when we were trying to determine which projects to do, we made sure that we incorporated the 10-year CIP first, and then also we wanted to take into consideration the importance of what the community asked for as well. So, we looked at this, what was more important here and there, and if we had to make decisions and cuts, those were the key drivers. Section 3 is, and this will be updated as we do different workshops with different funds, but this is a budget in brief, and this is something that the GFOA recommends providing when you are doing a budget workshop, is to provide just a real quick synopsis of your budget workshops of high level, so you can look at it in a glance. So hopefully this was helpful to you as you were, going through the presentation. It broke it down real high level, data driven. It's not intended to be lengthy. So when we do the next few funds, this will also be updated to include water, sewer, capital reserve funds, and all of those types of things. Section number 4 will be our today's workshop materials, and then tab number 5 will be what we end up doing tomorrow. So I just want to start out with saying thank you for being here. Thank you to the staff that helped me put this together. I mean, this isn't one man's job. I mean, we're constantly tweaking, meeting, trying to make sure we cover all the different bases. And this city's growing so fast. I mean, there's already things in here that's changed since last week. I mean, that's just how fast this changes. So it's hard to keep it fresh and up to date to the minute, because things are always changing. But again, thanks to the staff that helped put this together and help. And Kayla's here, she keeps me organized. I appreciate you didn't know I was gonna call you out on that, did you? Okay. So with that being said, let's get started into our budget workshop material. So today and tomorrow we will be talking about our general fund revenue, our citywide personnel and staffing, general fund department highlights, our general fund projects and transfers, our general fund project, our fund balance projections, and then any additional follow-up from council, at which we can do at any time. I want to just talk about, there's going to be a lot of times where we're talking about operational within our department, so we'll go down through all the different departments within the general fund, and you may be thinking, are we going to do that project, or are we going to do that project? A lot of those projects are going to be handled down in the later portion of the presentation. So one of the things that I did differently this year was, in the past we've had a tendency to use an administrative line for capital outlay, discretionary capital outlays. If we had big contracts or grant funding, or we were going to pay for stuff, big ticket items out of the general fund, we would pay it out of there. I've learned that a best practice with GFOA is you don't do anything that's big in capital within your operating budgets, but make a transfer to a capital reserve spot or a designated fund that kind of monitors those things better. So, for instance, we've paid street costs out of discretionary capital outlay, out of administration, kind of gets lost in there because there's a lot of different things in there. My approach this year is to, last year, in 26 we transferred out to the street department, but all items that we want to pay for streets will be a transfer to the street department, so those dollars remain in that fund to accommodate those tasks, and they don't just get, you know, lost. One of the things that you're kind of seeing in the financials each month this year is our admin budget looks overspent because 2025 street costs are coming in this year that were allocated to that line item. So it's real confusing, and I'm trying to figure out a way where I think, and the mayor asks, you know, it looks like we're kind of high in administration on our budget. And I said, well, a portion of that is 2025 costs that are coming in that are happen to be booked there because that's where we said we were going to do it in the past. So again, trying to transfer out large capital projects to different buckets so those can be handled in there and those dollars remain over there and outside of, you know, general operations. Does that make sense? So you're going to see that as a change. Okay. So let's talk about revenue. Pretty exciting. I think we're very fortunate. That's one of the things it's easy to do this budget because we do have good revenue numbers. We have good growth, we have sales tax, we have all kinds of different items that really help generate the revenues that we want to do to use for the projects that we have lined up. This here is the area city mill rate comparison for 2026, and this is where we are today as if we decided to keep our mill levy exactly where we are and exceed the revenue neutral rate. So this is where we kind of rank amongst all the other cities. And the book looks better than this chart, but you can see Goddard right here, we're at 39.299 mils right now. Keachai and Viola are the only ones under us, and everybody else is just, you know, substantially starts growing the other direction. So, as the mayor likes to say, the ring around Wichita, we're pretty competitive. So it's not like we're out of line or anything. We're really pretty much in a very good position. Again, we also talked about early on, we weren't going to increase the mill levy. So all the projections that we have in here are staying completely at the 39.299 mils. These projections do take into account that we will exceed the revenue neutral rate, which we'll talk about in a second.
I'll just mention real briefly that because of 1 cent sales tax, Mays is probably going to lower their mill levy this year. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much they lower. And also in talking with the Hayesville mayor, he indicated that they were going to lower their mill levy because of their 1 cent sales tax. So it'll be interesting to see after the dust clears. There's a lot of pressure. There've been, you know, Ryan Beatty's made several impassioned pleas about the municipalities to try to hold close to the revenue neutral rate. So, but most of those other cities aren't experiencing the growth that we are right now. So, but I think it'll be interesting to see how much they lower, even if they go down to the revenue neutral rate. But that's just a little general information. And then the last thing would be to point out that some of those cities in the 60s, clear out on the end, they pay for their own fire protection, so you kind of have to make an adjustment. We're paying 16.9 mils for fire protection. So
How many mils did you say?
it's like 16.9 mils for fire protection to the county.
There's lots of contextual differences. You got some cities that have no library, no pool, such as we do, which our library and pools are 8 mils, whereas Mays doesn't have either of those. So it's hard to compare apples to apples because we're all different shapes and sizes. We deliver somewhat different services in some regard, but you can get a pretty good idea of where you compare, and especially if you consider the context like libraries, pools, and whether or not they have their own fire EMS.
The fire thing is the major one. So I think Valley has kind of a hybrid. Clearwater has their own fire department. Cheney, Garden Plain, I'm not sure about, but I think they do. And Bentley, I think they have a 1940s fire truck. So.
Great mayor over there, Bill.
Unbelievably outstanding.
Another,
Awesome.
another thing to consider, I mean, there's been a lot of talk in the legislature about potential changes for next year, so lowering the mill levy down to our revenue neutral rate may get us stuck somewhere where we may not wanna be into the future. We don't know what those are going to be. So this, to me, is pretty conservative, keeping the revenue neutral rate, not raising the mill, just, you know, pretty much being flat, in my opinion, to kind of see what the legislature gives us next year, to kind of see if we're gonna have to backtrack, if we're gonna have to reduce something. You know, I think this is a conservative method, and we should always kind of think about that next year as we're thinking about our budgets for next year, so. City of Goddard's assessed valuation and history, so this came in a little bit under what we expected it to be. I believe last year when we were doing our projections, I had kind of hoped that it would be closer to 11%. We came in at 8.34% for 2027. Our total valuation's at 94 million, 94.5 million. 8% out. I'd already kind of factored that in last year, so it kind of dipped down just a little lower than we expected it to be. But I believe from what I've heard, that's really kind of standard amongst the other municipalities in the area, except for Mays, and I think they had some IRBs that came offline, so you know, they had some more valuation come on that we didn't have, but typically everybody was kind of seeing 5%, and we saw 8%, so we kind of feel we're still good. I think it's been mentioned that last year was a slow build season for us due to the rain and the backlog of engineering and those sorts of things, so we could see an uptick for next year. Kind of hope we do. If we don't, I factored in 8% going into the future out through 2030. So just letting you know, that's kind of what we're seeing. Our trend line, so if we start talking again, just briefly here about our revenue neutral rate, just as a reminder, the revenue neutral rate is the mill levy required to generate the same amount of property tax revenue as the prior year. The revenue neutral rate also excludes revenue from new growth. Because property values increased in 2026, the city R&R decreased. So, you know, as the value goes up, the amount of mills reduces. So any mill levy above the R&R generates additional property tax revenue and requires a public hearing under Kansas law. So our numbers came in like this. Our total assessed valuation that we've already talked about was $94.5 million. Our revenue neutral rate was set at 36.274 mills. Our current mill levy is 39.22, so you can see there's a difference there of 3.025 mills. Dollar-wise, 1 mill on the 2027 valuation generates approximately $94,554 in additional property taxes. So if our current mill levy is 3.02 mills below R&R, that is approximately $286,000 of additional property tax revenue above the revenue neutral rate. So if we did not adopt or, you know, approve to exceed R&R, we would be cutting our revenues down by $286,000 just by reducing our mill levy down to R&R. On July 6th, we will be bringing to you, unless you tell me otherwise, we will be bringing a resolution stating that the city intends to exceed R&R at our budget and in our budget hearing and our R&R hearing that we'll have on September 8th. We have to do that whether or not, if we decide to increase the R&R, that is the time we have to say we can, but when we get to the budget season, or the budget hearing, we don't have to adopt it. So, I mean, if you don't elect to say I might, then later you can't. So, you've got time between July 6th and September 9th to say, no, wait a minute, we're not gonna do that. So, this is just a step that we have to do. It's procedural. We did it last year. I mean, it's all common. So, we will be bringing that to you on the council meeting on July 6th to see if we're all in agreement that we need to notify the county. When that happens, the county will take our numbers and send out, the flyer to all of the citizens stating, there will be a budget hearing for the city of Goddard, and we plan to exceed R&R, and this is what it is. And that's when people kind of start getting excited, because they see those things come in the mail, and they'll know that we are not raising our mill levy, but we are exceeding R&R. So, any questions with that? City mill levy rate allocation. So just as a general reminder, the general fund doesn't get all of that 39.299 mils. It's divided up just a little bit. So our general fund gets 33.92. Our debt service fund gets 2.379 mils, and our library gets 3. So approximately, the general fund will get about 3.2 million, our debt service gets about 225,000, and our library gets about 283,000 out of the total property tax levy. You can tell down here in 2024 to 2025, that's when we raised our mill levy, 6 mils. And that was, as a reminder, we did that to start funding our 5 and 5 Street program. So that was the major initiative for that. From 2025 to 2026 last year, we raised the mill an additional 2 mils to start, adding more dollars towards that $1 million street program that we did. We have held steady. We had talked about increasing it another 2 mils this year. Unless you tell me otherwise, that hasn't happened in any of my numbers, but we're completely open to doing whatever you like. But this is showing steady, 39.299 mils out through 2030 at this point in time. Okay. I think it's really good just to remember why we raised our mills, 6 mils back a couple of years ago, and another 2, and those dollars have gone into the street budget, and you can see all the street work that we've done. That's very expensive work. That $1 million doesn't go very far, only a couple blocks, I think. So.
The important thing too is the fact that when we did that, we put out a map and showed everybody where we were going to spend the money. And I think, I know I had a couple of my neighbors said, well, if we need to fix the streets, go ahead and do it. But if you say you're going to do it, then tell everybody what you're going to do and then follow through. And I think, Allie, 2 years into this, we're on track of following that, and I just think it's important to point out that the mill levy increases haven't covered the full $1 million, and but because of the growth we have in the community, the increase in our sales tax, the increase in the fees that we've had, the money that we saved by making changes in property casualty insurance, figuring out how to get rid of the sludge and get a piece of equipment and still have half the money left over. I mean, we've done a lot of great things in terms of the 3 things that you have to do to run an operation. You can control expenses, which we've done. We've increased fees, which increases revenue, and we've experienced growth. I mean, so we're really in a good situation because all of those things are working together. And there are a lot of communities in the state of Kansas that would be very envious of the revenue growth that we're experiencing because of where we are and the growth. So, but I think that that was a big jump. I don't think we could do that again today. I think the political temperature, people are just kind of at that end, and we've seen a decrease in inflation. Revenue for wages is up, but it's kind of, like I've said this before, but we're kind of in a 1980s interest rate scenario. And hopefully in the next 3 or 4 years, as the economy recovers and real wage growth exceeds inflation, people will be relieved of some of the pressure. So, but I think we're fortunate to have found and savings. We've been brave enough to increase fees. The builders are paying to tie into the systems, and I mean, a lot of people have complained, well, you're adding all this stuff, what are they paying? And then when you tell them, they kind of go, okay. So we're in good shape with this, and as long as inflation doesn't take off or they blow up the Middle East, which I said before, we're in good shape, so I'll be quiet.
I think it's also important to note how much planning we've done, and we follow the plan. So when we start early in the year with, revising, we built the 10-year CIP last year, and then we revise it annually, and we're getting ready to bring it in and revise it again, just with additions and changes and better cost estimates. So we follow our plan. That's been our guiding light as we prepared our budget, and, knowing those things helps us stay transparent, and it helps the community know that the tax dollars that we're bringing in are paying for what we've said. And we can show it with the building you guys are building, the North Park that's being built. These things, they're happening. So, okay.
Turning up people's streets today, so.
City tax revenue breakdown. We don't only bring in tax revenue from property taxes and ad valorem taxes, but we have other good sources of tax revenue, such as our franchise taxes, our sales tax, our alcohol tax, and our comp use tax, which are growing as well. So you can see from the bottom numbers at the bottom of all of our tax revenue that's come in, we're bringing in about an additional $500,000 a year in just those components alone, the property tax combination, to sales tax, to franchise taxes. Our alcohol tax that we did has started to go up as well. Overall, it's kind of averages, 27 through 2030, it's kind of a 7.5% growth there. That's probably conservative. I also want to mention none of the numbers from 2027 to 2030 take into consideration any STAR bond revenue that could possibly be coming online in 2028, 2029. So, and it doesn't take into any consideration the growth that we're going to get from the comp use tax, which is in the STAR bond district, but the Goddard apartments and the new development, the Overland Park property group, and all of that stuff. So I mean, this is honestly worst case scenario in my opinion, because I think it's going to be better than projected come 2028, 2029, and 30, because those revenues are really going to kick up and get in there. Franchise, I kind of want to look at this. Our franchise fees are doing well. Sales tax this year is down just a tad bit, but our comp use is up. So I know people are shopping online more than in stores or what, but that's just midway through the year. Starbucks. So, any questions on our tax revenue?
One quick question. What is watercraft? How's that?
Watercraft. That is something we get from the from the county for our property taxes. It's like motor vehicle or commercial vehicle. Honestly, when they give me my projections, they give me 0. That's what they give us. And these are kind of actual numbers that actually come in. So it's kind of funny, on the state budget form, they want you to put in a number, but I get 0 there from the county, and they won't let me put anything in that doesn't match what the county says. So it's usually nothing. It's usually boats and.
Well, but maybe I'm wrong, but didn't they axe the property tax on recreational vehicles now?
No,
it may not have come into effect yet.
Okay.
I think I saw some legislative changes on that, but
recreational vehicle tax is separate from watercraft. So
Okay, I wasn't sure that.
when I think I want to check into this too, but I think RV tax is actually like a motor home camper, whereas recreational vehicle you're referring to like ATVs, golf carts.
But I thought it included watercraft as well, but maybe to a certain size, I don't know.
We'll have a look, and it may pass and it just isn't affected until the next budget cycle.
Okay.
But yeah, when Brooke gets her state forms, everything from watercraft up to ad valorem taxes is, the number changes based on the mill levy that's set and the formula that the state puts into that state form. So our other mill levy supported department, which is the library, it's the same thing. They actually get a portion of that too. There used to be one called oil tax on there. They don't do that anymore, but it's they change it every once in a while.
it's usually hardly anything,
Yeah, I figured as much, I just didn't know.
Small amount.
Yeah.
But we'll look at that.
So if they take it away, we'll be like, all right.
The motor vehicle tax is one that is consequential, we wanna make sure.
Right,
that-
yeah.
And that's what you paid for, right?
Yeah.
Continuing through, our general fund revenue, so in addition to our property taxes, sales tax, franchise, and other taxes, we generate revenue through other sources as well. We obviously bring in revenue from our licenses and building permits, fines, forfeitures, and penalties, charges for services. I'm gonna talk about some of these things in a second. Intergovernmental is either grants or just in between funds, and it's kind of a catch-all. And then we have interest earnings. So licenses and permits, it's trending down just a little bit right now from projections, and so I've kind of budgeted for this to be pretty conservative. It may get better, you know, with building permits maybe picking up and the developments picking up a little bit due to the weather and last year's lag. Fines, forfeitures, and penalties, I'm kind of seeing a little bit of an uptick in revenue for court. I don't know if it's just our new processes, our new court clerk being on top of things, I don't know. Maybe we're processing more things, but our revenue's picking up just a little bit. I'm kind of seeing some sort of a trend there. I still budgeted conservatively though, for only $50,000. Charges for services, this is where I have booked our project administration fee. So this is a big deal. This is why we are up about 15% over last year. So as you recall, when we do new developments in the city and we manage the projects and we go out for temp note financing, the city gets to take advantage of a 5% project administration fee on those developments. When they go to permanent finance, we get 5% of the true construction engineering project costs, not interest, not recording fees, AG costs, cost of issuance, but just the true project costs. In 2026, we have 2 projects going to permanent finance. So we're gonna get our fee on those. And then next year, in 2027, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different projects that are going to permanent finance, which allows us to really recoup a large number in our project administration fees. This year, I have it estimated at being around $170,000. Next year, it's gonna be $864,000. So those are big deals that we get to recoup and utilize from managing these projects and having that administration fee. Also,
Brooke, sorry, you might make mention, because I could feel wheels turning in my head, that's a great amount of money, where might we be able to spend that or reduce in other areas? And we've got a couple of projects that we've kind of tied that to, with some design, engineering, architectural work. You want to mention those?
yeah,
I know
so
it's coming up later.
all of the money that we generate within the general fund, including this large amount of money, helps us make our transfers to our large capital projects in our CIP. So, you know, you're going to see where we're asking for dollars to do the engineering and design of our police station. You know, we've got that budgeted at, you know, $750,000. So, you know, that's a good, you know, if you want to try to line up items, that would be a component right there.
$300,000 towards engineering design of US 54 and 199.
Yeah.
This allows us to get those projects in engineering design utilizing cash, and then when we go to permanent finance, we will have the option, we'll work with council on making this decision on either paying ourselves back for what we paid for in cash, or just having a smaller amount of debt, saving costs of issuance and the interest payments. So the $943,000 really offers some flexibility, and it will give us some long-term cost savings when we're borrowing money, and help us get into engineering design more quickly on projects like architectural for the police station, and then engineering design intersection improvements at 54 and 199. It's a value that we get out of being in a growing community. If you're not growing, you're not issuing this debt for these developments, you don't have this.
Yeah. For our projection purposes too, the revenue out past 2027 does not take into consideration project administration fees. I've backed those out, so I don't wanna count on those until we know they're going to permanent finance and I know what those dollars are gonna be for those projects. Those development projects are changing every month. I mean, you see those in the agenda report or my monthly financial reports and stuff, you know, those change so much, so it's just kinda hard to determine. I don't wanna count on something or make projections when those numbers change so quickly. Interest income, I went real conservative here. I think we probably are gonna see closer to 148,000 again, or, you know, right around that, number for revenue, for interest, but I always budget conservatively. You know, our cash, I mean, we have a lot of cash right now. We're getting ready to issue more temp notes. I don't know what more temp notes we're gonna issue. Those help us accumulate that interest income, but we're also paying for projects pretty rapidly right now. You know, the North Park, all of the projects that we're working on in construction, you know, reduce our cash, so that's just kind of an estimate. I have a feeling we'll have good cash balances to generate enough revenue. I did that pretty conservatively there. So like I said, year over year, I project in 2027 we'll be up about 15%. But again, mainly that's for charges for services there. Any questions on that? So just to highlight real quickly, this is just a little chart kind of showing you where all of our tax revenue, all of our revenues kind of come in this graph. But just a reminder, our valuation growth was at 8.34%. It's down just a little bit, then reduced to 8% going forward. So next year we'll update that, redo kind of a projection to see what's happening with our valuation, if it went up, down. But right now, projected out, when you see the fund balance projection in the bid, that's all taken into consideration with 8% when we're talking about revenues there. Sales tax, compensating use tax, and franchise revenues were based on historical trends and just kind of what I'm seeing. I do an average of an average and an average, and I mean, it just keeps going, just kind of making sure that it's pretty much conservative, but I'm seeing an upward tick on those. As a reminder, our Star Bond sales tax revenue has not been included in anything. I haven't put $1 of Star Bond revenue in here at all. So when that section opens up, we're gonna have another line item that hopefully looks pretty good. And also charges for services increased, driven by about 860,000 that we're gonna see from project revenue. So
For the transition out of revenue, I think it's fiduciary responsibility for us to make sure council's aware of headwinds. There's been a couple macroeconomic headwinds that have been mentioned, but one of the reasons to the sensitivity of not absorbing the new revenue growth by exceeding the revenue neutral rate is that we're gonna have a new governor next year. And for the previous two legislative sessions, the governor has vetoed tax policy that completely changes the rules on us and our ability to generate additional revenue above the revenue that we're creating in the current budget year. So if they pass some version of some of the tax policy that we've seen in the past handful of legislative sessions, we could be having very different conversations about the money we have available and how things look. So we're in a different position than most cities because of our growth, but if we're not able to take advantage of our growth because the legislators cap us or something, which has been discussed, it's a different conversation, right? And then the second thing is, that's property taxes primarily, but there's some legislation that is continuing to kind of bounce around up there that's being promoted by a couple of the counties that would reduce the amount of countywide sales tax that we get. There's really no such thing as a tax cut. I hate to say that, but you're really just shifting. If you're cutting there, the lineal foot cost of a pipe or the cost of paving a lane mile of road does not get any cheaper. You're just gonna have to make it up somewhere else. So, but those are things that we need to be aware of. There are headwinds, and I think that pretty confident that next year, maybe the year after at the latest, we're gonna be dealing with a whole new policy for how we do our annual budgets, because you'll have conservative majority in the Senate, the House, and the governorship. So there won't be a lot of vetoing going on by the governor at that point. So there'll be things we want to think about as we make decisions this year and next. Might be a whole different scenario in the future year.
Alright, our next section, this might be the last section we get to, I don't know, we got 15 minutes. Citywide personnel and staffing, the people behind city services. So, we spent a lot of time talking personnel this year, just because, you know, we're growing, everybody's plate is full. I mean, everybody's plate's full around here, and, you know, a lot of us work late, long hours, and, you know, we're busy here. You guys know what's going on. So, as you recall, back last year, we did a study with McGrath, and they gave us recommendations, lots of changes to our personnel, policies, procedures, job descriptions, and then I believe they did a study that kind of guided us into, you know, our needs into the future. So, you know, we took those recommendations. I looked up GFOA best practices, kind of determining, you know, if we're going to add people, what's the justification of this? You know, if we're going to add so many people, how does this look? You know, I just wanted to see if we're right in the ballpark. And so basically the policies state if you're going to add people, there needs to be a reason. It needs to tie to your studies, it needs to tie to your capital improvement plan, all of the services that you're offering, just to make sure that, you know, you've got enough people to cover all of the things in your growth. Also, it said if you're going to budget for positions, you should budget at least 10% higher than what you expect your actuals to be. So you will always see in my budgets what I think it's going to come in at, but here's our budget. Because we always have to budget for the full cost of an employee, and most of the time, I think I tweaked it almost, just fine-tuned it almost to the day some of the positions applied or came online. But you know, you've got to count for a full year of health insurance for an employee that may not even need health insurance when they come on. So you know, you've got all of these factors, and you know, trying to come up with the cost for these is very, very difficult. As we do these, you know, we talk about or work on our personnel and staffing, you know, all the costs that are associated with an employee. You know, you've got health insurance, you've got CAPERS, you've got KP and F, you've got workman's comp, you've got unemployment taxes, you've got bonuses. So there's all these different components that go into this. When I talked to Hadley at Freedom Claims early, about 2 months ago, maybe less, he had projected that our rates, I should probably factor in for our health insurance increases to be probably close to 12 to 15%. As you recall, we entered into contracts with Freedom Claims where we put money into a reserve account, and then, you know, things that are not covered by our high deductible Blue Cross Blue Shield get paid out of this, and over time this either gets built up, or if we're using it a lot, obviously it would get depleted. Well, we have built this up. We've built it up actually past the point of an FDIC secured at this bank that they make us put it at. So I actually draw money back and put it back into our other account just to keep it. We're doing very well there. And so Hadley said, you know, traditionally budget for 10 to 15%. I budgeted 10%, thinking that when the actual claims come in, we'll just use some of that reserve fund to kind of carry the costs of any increase to the city. Last week, Hadley called and said he can't wait to meet with me. He's going to meet with us on Monday. He doesn't think there's an increase at all. So these factor in 10% increase in health insurance costs, but he thinks we've done so well that there's no increase at all. So maybe he's tricking me, I don't know, but that's what he told me, and so I can't wait to see him, because a lot of cities see double-digit increases in health insurance, and he says that ours is doing very well.
Our employee demographics changed quite a bit too in the last few years, like to be part of it.
Yeah.
I've never seen one lower than 8 or 9%.
Yeah, he said it's pretty much flat, is what he said. So I wanted to share that with you guys, that these budget numbers are just a little high, but that doesn't mean we should go reduce it. I think having that excess in there just kind of helps us make sure we're not counting for that. So with that being said, I want to move on to, so our position additions for our employee counts. This is what we've come up with from 2024 to 2027. This is kind of where we've landed, for full-time and part-time, and I had governance body. No, not,
Goddard.
it doesn't look like that here, I'm just saying, it looks silly there. Stuff like that, no, no.
Governing G-body.
So we have increased, our total employee count from 2024 from 56 to 67 in the best case scenario. So in 2026, you know, we've hired a director of human resources. That position has been hired. Our building inspector has been hired. We budgeted for an assistant to the city manager. That position is currently still open. Full-time senior center director, we did not actually budget for a full-time, so that one came from a part-time up to a full-time, and that one has just been filled. So it's one of those situations where it kind of jumps from one to the other, and I'm like, where do you put it? So I just wanted to highlight that that's where we landed. We budgeted for 2 police officers in 26 and 2 public works staff, and in both the public, well, let's talk about police. Those positions have been hired, but we still have positions open just for some turnover that we have. So same situation in public works. We've hired, but we have open positions. So that's kind of a trend. We budget for these, but we always seem to have open positions along the way. So we're not, Jason was fully staffed last year, but we've had a little turnover this year. So I mean, you know, just the season of how things work.
So right now,
I'm just gonna.
He's down
you're
one.
down 1 and you're
He's down one.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's really good compared to
No, well,
last
yeah.
handful of years.
Regular patrol officer?
So when we hired the director of HR and our building inspector, we factored in some cost savings with that, with some operational expenses that kind of came in the other way. When we hired our director of HR, our cost savings really will start being absorbed from our legal costs that, you know, we were always having to, you know, reach out to contracts for legal, and also our independent contractors like our McGrath and you know, our HR consultants that we have. So now that we have that in-house, that those types of things and those costs will go down. Our building inspector, we no longer, we will have a reduced cost to our county inspection fees that we pay out. So every time that we have a building inspected, they get half of the permit fees, right, Micah, Ryan?
Yes.
And so we won't have to give those fees to them. And also, I think I've heard through discussion that there's a possibility that we can revise our fee structure that would be more in line with, we don't have to rely on the county's fee structure that goes along with the inspection. So we can change some different costs associated with that would make more sense, that would generate more revenue with that. So those are some aspects that help offset the cost of those positions, some additional revenue, some less expenses that, you know, help quantify the need for those positions.
Roughly how much will the county get with us having a building inspector? Until we make changes.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Brooke, how much are they getting right now? I don't know, do you?
I wanna say they get probably close to 100,000 a year.
So most of what we're doing is residential, so we should be able to save a vast majority of that by doing all of the residential inspections in-house instead of having them at ACDT.
So if they get half of the building permit right now,
Mike,
in
I'm sorry.
comparison, sorry.
Yeah, no, for just like let's just do a new build, single family house. What is that?
The permit's 4,000, correct?
So
Just
this
the
is a little,
building
this is a little complicated, but single family is traditionally gonna be about $1,200 on just the permit side. That doesn't include taps,
Right.
equity fees or anything like that. So let's just say $1,200 for a single family detached, so they're gonna get $600. we would get sent in a bunch, just from the permit fee. For a duplex, it's closer on the permit side, it could be closer to $1,500, so we're getting about $750, and they're getting $750.
And they won't get any of that now?
It just depends. So right now, let's say come July 1st, that our building inspector is handling 100% of it, then we would keep 100% of the permit fees.
But you can't keep up and you have to pull in, it'll just
Yeah.
depend, okay.
Yeah.
So it'll fluctuate depending on how often you have to use them.
Right, and as Brooke was saying, we're beholden to MABCD's fee structure
Mhm.
because of our interlocal service agreement. As we move forward, come July 1st, we have that ability to amend that fee structure to reflect something that's more beneficial to us, if we want.
So next year to break even on the salary, approximately how many houses / duplexes in the percentage that we're doing now is it gonna take?
And it wouldn't just be houses though, we're talking about standalone electrical
But I'm just
permits.
saying, if you just look at the duplexes and the houses, with the 650 and the 750, about how many houses and duplexes will it take us to break even?
Okay, but also, I mean, we also have to take into account electrical permits, mechanical permits, plumbing permits, fence permits, things of
I
that nature as well.
understand,
Collectively.
but
Oh, I don't know.
well, could you maybe give us a report soon to show us kind of what the break even is on
Let me
this
give you
stuff?
some real numbers, I'd have to.
That, I love real numbers.
Yeah, I don't wanna make up numbers, so I'd have to look at
Okay,
some real numbers.
that's good, well,
Yeah.
I just kinda like to see what the break even is.
Yeah, let me get some real
The
numbers.
estimates.
And there was a time we ran numbers, we just don't keep it on the top of our
I
heads,
understand.
we'll get it to you.
And then just what it'll look like if you do.
A lot of numbers
restructure.
floating out there.
Yeah.
I've got numbers floating in my head too, so. Sorry to interrupt.
No? Alright, so in 2027, we're going to propose, we hire a city planner, 2 more police officers, and 1 public works staff. Those have been factored into our, scenario here. And as for reference, I just wanna let you know, I should have put this on this slide, but I have the numbers just kind of comparing the other cities around. Valley Center currently has 48 full-time employees, Mays has 53, Park City has 58, Hayesville has 95, and Bel Air has 47. So, you know, with us adding in this is just full-time, not total, you know, we're, with these additions, we're really right where everybody else is.
Is this into the city manager, is that posted?
So we're interviewing someone this afternoon about that actually.
Okay.
We haven't quite opened it up to the whole world at this point, but I don't know that I will. Real quickly, I wanted to just share about the city planner, because maybe this is the first you've heard about, you may be wondering what it is. One of the primary things that they'll do is assist with our planning and zoning stuff. You guys may see some of the recent media attention that our wonderful communities receive, but part of Micah's job is economic development, that's recruitment, and those types of things, along with all the planning and zoning, which if you've ever looked at our zoning regs, can be pretty detail oriented. And with the number of applications we have for zoning amendments and plats and site plans and those kinds of things, it's a lot for him to do along with the rest of his work and the things we want him to help do for our community. And so the city planner will assist with a lot of the planning and zoning stuff, but also implementing the comprehensive plan. When that comprehensive plan is done, and I've heard before, we don't want it to sit on the shelf, we totally agree. I'm trying to figure out which one of us will have the ability to do anything with it once it's complete. So a big part of the city planner's job will to be actionizing the comprehensive plan once it's done. Any updates to the zoning and subdivision regs that need to be made as a result of it, any initiatives, any programs you guys want to do, those types of things. There's all kinds of planners. Transportation planning is big. I would assume we'll have some of those types of people apply. Mayor's pretty involved at WAMPO. There's probably 3 city planners that work there. They're transportation planners. We hope to find someone who kind of has a more broad education experience, because while transportation is important here, we also have other planning needs as well. So, yeah.
I can back up and give you some better numbers just for the county inspection fees. In 2024, they were around 123,000. 2025, they're 118,000. I have them projected high this year at 100,000. I think they're gonna go down substantially based on what, Andrew is gonna be able to do. And then I budgeted 75 next year just to put something there, because I think there's something,
Commercial and industrial.
you can't
is
do
so
commercial and
handled.
industrial right now, so I mean, those will still be some costs that we have in there, but, you know, I put dollars there just to make sure. I'm not sure that we'll use them, but we gotta put them there just to make sure to cover us in that.
And he has all his commercial licenses but one, as I
Except for one.
understand it, so if he,
Yeah.
literally one more test and he's got that, then it just is a matter of, does he have the bandwidth? So, we've talked before, maybe in 2028, depending on how the next year and a half goes, we may look at another part-time inspector or another full-time, just depends on how the math looks and what the workload is, and is he ever covered all?
Yeah.
So the cost summaries into the various categories from 2024 through 2027, you'll see what we have here, our salaries, our health insurance, payroll taxes, KPERS, KP&F, and our workman's comp. As you see personnel later, it's gonna encompass a few other things like our wellness program and just some little ancillary items. So if those numbers don't line up, that's why. But from 2026 to 2027, putting in these new positions, putting in some increases. In a minute. Hang on a minute. Okay, I got more to talk about.
2-minute warning.
2-minute warning, okay.
We can go longer if you guys want to, but it's up to you.
Some of these people have to work, I don't have to, I can stay here all day. For respect to them.
We'll be here again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right, so.
If we could just get through personnel, I got a few more, how's that, is that okay?
That's
Then
fine
we can have
with
her-
me, but-
okay. So,
Just giving the warning.
we're showing about a 13.86% increase, and I'm gonna show you, some scenarios in a minute on how we got to this number and some of the things that we decided to not do as well. This personnel is allocated based on our funds and our departments too. So I know that today we're only talking about general fund, but obviously all personnel, for the city goes into different buckets. So you're gonna see, how these kind of range from the general fund to our water, sewer, special highway, and tourism and promotion fund. So all of these different funds, departments, and funds will take a portion of this salary cost, and you'll see that as we start getting through all of the different departments and components and funds. I also wanted to mention, the police department is obviously our largest, allocation of personnel, followed by, I'd like to lump these three together, and you're about at a 33%, our utilities, and then our administration at 14%. So that's kind of where everything ranks. Everything else is just several positions, or one position or half a position here or there. So as we were trying to determine how to come up with our salary scenarios and how to make things reasonable and make our budget work, we did some several things. So kind of historically, prior to 2024 and me coming on in 2019, whenever COVID happened, that seemed like a million years ago, inflation obviously went up, so the COLA and merit, I think, was starting out at like 8%. I think they had to catch up with inflation, and that's kind of what we were seeing. And so we started kind of bringing it back down just to kind of be closer in line with inflation. Last year we did a 5% merit and COLA. So we ran some scenarios. Our first scenario, we took a 5% COLA like we had last year with our merit, with all staffing requests. So we had actually put in some additional, a police officer, an additional public works employee, and ran those scenarios to kind of see where we landed. That projected cost was about $6 million overall. Our second one was, well, let's drop the COLA down to something closer to inflation. We know some of the other areas around, they're a little bit lower. So we did a 30% with all staffing requests, and it showed up to be about $5.9 million. Scenario 3 is what you actually see in our budget. We did a 4% COLA merit adjustment with the reduction of a police officer and a reduction of a public works staff, which ended up cost with a savings of about $181,660 there. So, kinda tried to make some compromises here, you know, trying to get back down into normal inflationary, rates, you know, kind of, we didn't put in all the positions we wanted, and, you know, we kinda, you know, we reduced those out, so that's how we kinda came up with our scenarios there. And that's it for personnel,
Can I
so.
ask a question?
Yes.
It's more for you too. Just when we're looking at this and the difference of less than 200,000, which I know is a big number, I'm not pretending it's not, but we're talking more about like Public Works doing a lot more of their own work. And we kind of have the conversation about how sometimes like officer ratios down at certain times of the day, like, is it realistic to cut those two? Like one in each for you guys next year? Is that realistic with what we're taking on, the growth that Goddard's seeing? Like very candidly, is that realistic to not have the
I
extra?
think one of the reasons we thought it would probably be okay by not including an additional police officer was because we always have somebody that's already, we don't completely fill it. You know, we don't have a staff that's completely full, in the police department and sometimes in public works. So budgeting for a position that we may not fill takes budget authority away from us. Another thing, when we hire policemen, we have to get a car. And we have to get, you know, there's a lot more cost with that. So I believe, Chief, we thought that when we met, when we narrowed it down, it was okay, we could get by and feel pretty good with trying to get fully staffed with the two that we say we're gonna get. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think it's important that we keep stair stepping up. So we don't go 3 years and not add staff when we're growing. And so if we can match the growth of our staff with the growth of our finances and keep those ratios in line, that's kind of a good place to be. And we're not, so really, we're kind of committing to this year. We add one, we keep growing, we're gonna keep adding in both places. And I think that's, financially, that's a safe place to be. The other thing we haven't talked about, I think that there needs to be some consideration given to increasing the pay of the council. I know that we are assigned meetings outside of here. I think we should probably, if we're assigned, like if I'm assigned to go to Wampo once a month, I should probably be paid to do that. If Krista's assigned to go to SCAC once a quarter, she should be paid for that hour that she's there. And then I think that, you know, the time we put in terms of preparation, you know, not that we need a gigantic increase, but I think probably what we get paid should maybe have some type of step to it too. So think about that. And it's the last thing, you know, so that'll probably get us not elected because we raised our own salaries, but I think.
I think it's the elephant in the room, and like, let's just call it what it is. I think we're probably one of the lowest paid councils, but nobody wants to come up and talk about their own pay. So, I mean, I think that's a.
Yeah, no, I just think, and that's, if there was some type of step in place over time that,
Maybe helps future council as well.
it doesn't, you know.
It gets more high quality people to run for it. There's not I mean, no one does it for the money, but also your time away from family is worth something. And we want high quality people running for these positions, and some of them maybe aren't gonna think it's worth it to them if they're not being compensated to some degree. If you guys want us to do some amount, just tell us.
Well, and maybe we could do some
get some
comparison
surveying.
surveying done. Just-
Okay, yeah, we typically that comes up every few years, so
It's been a
we'll,
while since we've been on council, I think we've talked about this.
that's easier to find too, cause it's almost always in the city code book, so you can pull that.
Turn the recording back on now.
I always want to back up too with, if chief or,
They didn't wanna say something since the question was directed at them.
Yeah, I don't wanna put you on the spot. I think in my head, like financially I see that, but I also just like being in the community, listening to you guys talk, I wanna be very careful of treading that line that I know it's hard to be fully staffed, but I don't want that to then be the standard that we've opened up these positions for you because you can't be fully staffed. We're not worried about continuing to grow because obviously the goal to do this responsibly or comfortably was these full staffed positions. And so I just kinda wanna tread that line.
And a lot of it comes down to the pay and compensation that someone can get here versus other locations.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look back historically, we may have been short one or two of that fully staffed level for the last 10 years, but each year that's a growing number. So
The basement's
being,
growing.
yeah, exactly. If that makes sense.
I like the idea of stair stepping though, because then it won't be like all of a sudden, 2
Well,
years
I mean,
later, we're
it's
having
hard.
to.
And if you waited 3 years to stay stagnant where we're at, and waited 3 years to hire 5, logistically and logically and training wise, that just is unprecedented, and it would be very hard to do in a professional setting to onboard that many people, to stand up that type of increase would be really hard without
Well, and I would
money tree.
assume, yeah, financially that's hard, but also I would assume if we're struggling to get 1 or 2 people waiting and waiting and waiting and then trying to get 5 and really be like hurting, I would assume would make
At
that.
one or two kids over 5 years, your family dynamics aren't changing that much, but if you go and all of a sudden adopt 12 kids, then you're gonna have a big difference.
Yeah.
Analogy.
1 to 2 years is a really good pace for public works and police. Admin staff's a little trickier. You know, our admin staff has not really grown at all throughout any of this in the last 15 or 20 years. We've created new departments, so we've taken some things away from civic groups around doing in-house, like the chamber doing the events. Now we have a senior center. So I don't really include those when I say admin. When I mean admin, I mean the utility billing people, the CFO, the community, those types of positions. So it's been a great relief that you guys have been willing to support us adding some admin staff this year and next, because Goddard has changed a lot. We're growing really, really fast, and we're still kind of, even though this office is shrinking, because we're adding more people to some of these new programs and stuff, administratively we really haven't grown. And our burden, believe it or not, is growing a little bit too, just like police and public works is. So on behalf of the admin people, I appreciate that. You guys are supporting it.
Okay, city manager report, would you like to
No.
say 20 things or?
No, sir. No, sir. We'll do it all again tomorrow at 6.
Alright, if everybody comments, we'll start down at the end of the table and work this way. Any
All the way
comments?
down here.
Yeah, so it's a long way down there. And the dress code today was blue, I just don't know what the dress code tomorrow's gonna be.
I'm really sorry, I missed the email.
I guess green.
Green, okay.
We'll have to-
We can do that.
Green shirt.
I'm
Alright,
very
so,
disappointed if you guys are in green.
alright.
Do you want to let us know who's praying so they can bring their phylactery and be ready to go?
No, we'll see, I'll have to work on that. So Corey, do you have anything you want to add?
So I do just want to say thank you for putting these together. We really appreciate having all that well laid out, tabbed and all. So thank you for that. I wanted to bring up something, just food for thought for now, because Naomi is probably gonna speak more to it if she's here tomorrow night, I'm not sure. But, in the Lions Club, we had sponsored a girl from one of the high schools to go to what is called, Sunflower Girl State. It's a, summer camp, like a week-long camp where they learn about government, they learn about the judicial system, election system, all those things. They kind of a mock week of what it's like to be in government. And from learning from her, Goddard schools don't typically send anybody to this. So me and Naomi thought it might be something we would want to look at doing as like a grant or scholarship thing that maybe the city could provide and work with the schools to identify. They actually have it for a boys camp and a girls camp. Maybe something we could budget for next year and come up with a way to work with the schools. Maybe they could identify a kid from each that we could sponsor, but it's a relatively low cost. It's a $425 fee for the week, and then an additional 25 paid by the person actually attending. So most people go to this, get some type of scholarship or grant to go, but they have to pay $25 or $50 of their own money as well to go to this. So just something I wanted to bring up. There's some more information here I can pass along.
That's a great idea. This came up last week, and years ago my wife went. I think she took a Conestoga wagon from McPherson to Topeka, and then they actually stayed in Lawrence instead of staying in
they stayed in
Topeka.
Lawrence,
But yeah, she had a good time. That was eye-opening for her.
She took a what?
A wagon train, you know, she's
A
a
covered
horse,
wagon.
a covered
I
wagon.
hope she's watching this right now.
Oh, she is, and I'll get text here in a minute, so.
I can provide you protection.
Right, do you wanna give the rest of us that information?
Yeah, can we get that?
I've got it.
Yeah, he's got it.
Councilwoman reached out
No,
to me
that's
yesterday.
just-
We've got a part in the budget for donations and stuff. If you guys want to do $1,000 or whatever, let us kind of maybe tell us what you want that amount to be, and maybe work on the name a little bit. She said the mayor's grant. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really have a preference for what we call it.
Conestoga wagon train.
Tomorrow we'll be talking about our community donations department, and so there's some things that we donate to, like the Lions Club and the Women's Club. We can add that in if you'd like. I'll make a note. We can discuss that tomorrow when we're doing that, so.
I'll send you guys the email too from Councilwoman.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I got.
Well, I want to echo, thank you for putting this together and all the work that all of you put in, because we know that this takes quite a bit of time. You guys work really hard. The green's growing on everyone, so. Also, thank you to Jim and Gary for coming in and sharing their concerns. I definitely would like to see follow up on that and just what we can do there. I know that there's a few things. I know Mayor Reed last time had mentioned the fire hydrants. Also curious about maybe some of the potholes and things that we've talked about that we're gonna get fixed in the spring, that I think there's a few still left to do. So I just kinda wanna see where we're at on those, but.
We sent you guys all the info on the hydrants already, so check your email on that. And Jason and I meet tomorrow to go over his plan of action to
Perfect.
begin addressing those. Some of that work's already started.
Perfect.
They did get the pothole filled at US 54 and 199th, so we'll make sure they're getting the other ones done too. So.
Perfect. No, I really appreciate that. I know you guys' workload is never ending, so.
Which we don't need a pothole hotline like they have to do, which is part of our.
We have one of those. We got a reporting
Topeka
concern,
found
take a
too,
picture
yeah.
and send it.
Yeah, okay, next battery.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together, Brooke. I wanna also thank the Public Works Department. I had a citizen reach out to me about some vandalism in one of our culverts. As she's walking her dog, she noticed this, and it was taken care of quickly, so thank you for taking care of that. Yeah, other than that, I think we do need to get our fire hydrants taken care of soon, and, yeah. Are we beginning here tomorrow?
We'll, on this page, yeah.
Okay.
At 6, not 7, correct?
Six.
6 o'clock, yeah.
6
Green
o'clock.
shirts.
3 things real quickly. I know, I think last month we had an extra meeting. I think we generally, when we have those extra meetings, we get paid a little bit extra, so we didn't get that last month. And then, we got a couple extra meetings this month, so probably get that on
Do you want interest?
the, no.
We'll get you taken care
Just,
of.
my wife's just dying to go to the grocery store, spend $100, so I'm getting a hole deeper. Last night, did a little, moonlight driving down Main Street, and from 4th Street to the highway, on the west side, there's 3 lights out, which are the only 3 lights. And then the 3 lights at the intersection of 54 and Main, all 3 of those lights are out. So it gets a little dark when you go past 4th Street going out, and it is really hard at night for an old guy to see
What was the second stretch, Mayor? Sorry.
just from 4th Street north.
I got that.
And then he said the
And
intersection.
the intersection, the 3 lights on that intersection are all out too.
We're having a really difficult time getting Evergy to act on our request, but we'll keep pushing.
I understand, but I just gotta keep asking. Number 2, I know on that list, I looked at, there were 2 hydrants that were listed on Stewart, and I'm thinking maybe those should be Brazos on the list of hydrants that are, they're just, if not, there's 2 more hydrants down there. So my guess is there's Stewart's such a small street.
I don't even think we have to. You
Yeah,
said,
no, I don't think you do either, so I think those should be on Brazos.
Okay.
I just wanted to just make sure that we're,
Now I'm gonna look
Just
Right
to
on
mention,
that.
just to mention on the fire hydrants, Jason and I budgeted, which you'll see in the water fund, a lot of dollars for hydrant replacement next year, so not that we don't have the money this year, but it's actively on our list.
no, I understand, but I just thought it was good that we actually had a list to see, and I guess the other thing maybe on that list would be to put a column on the date that those were actually reported as, I think this is.
As repaired.
Yeah, as repaired, but also when they went on the list it started, so.
And then of all those hydrants as well, are not for replacements, what we're gonna do is we're gonna send out crew members that are gonna actually assess it, see if there's any repairs.
Sure.
We're
No,
spending
that's
money
fine.
Making repairs now, instead of just doing one replacements,
So we wanna make sure that if you're gonna repair it, they're worth repairing.
so.
I know you said budgeting for next year, but we are planning on doing some of these this year, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
just
most
wanted
of them.
to
Yes.
clarify that, okay.
And this isn't a reflection on any of the current staff.
No,
I
not
think
at all.
there's
I think it's a lot of years of,
well, their previous staff person, someplace along the line, things weren't communicated up to the office like maybe they should have been, so. But I just appreciate the attention to it.
Yeah.
You know, it is important, and you know, the basic block and tackling and things we all take for granted, there'd be nothing worse than to have something happen and then all of a sudden, there was a delay and there was a severe fire instead of something being done. You don't wanna be the Palisades in Kansas, so. But anyway, that's not a fair comparison.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's just, if you're ultimately responsible for that, I mean, it's just a heart sinking feeling you'd all feel if something, happened, so.
can I make a request with that, and maybe this is a little unattainable, or maybe it's not something we wanna do, but I think the fire hydrants have been a pretty big concern within the community. There's been a lot of people coming in saying, hey, these are not being fixed. We kinda talk about the transparency, when you guys kind of get that game plan together and you know exactly what you're doing, can we kind of put that information out there? That way people are kind of tracking, like, they know, hey, mine's gonna get fixed around this date, or maybe just a little more of a, or maybe just a little more transparency as we're doing it, so people are made aware that they see us actively working to fix these things.
We'll do some sort of communication. I'm gonna be careful
And,
with exactly how we illustrate that. Half of them are going to be replaced by NBI very
Okay.
soon as a part of the water looping project.
Yeah,
And as Jason said, some of these are really minor repairs. The county, which understandably so, is pretty aggressive. If it doesn't crack open right away when it's time, they bag that thing. So maybe really simple, quick fixes that we can take care of.
That's endemic throughout all municipalities, fire departments are always a little more.
and it makes it look
aggressive.
worse than,
Well, they
yeah.
want to make sure it's working perfectly right when
Yeah,
they're there,
of course,
obviously, so
but-
we get it.
Okay.
But yes, it is at the top of the priority list.
No, I
We
appreciate
will
that.
communicate to the public in some regard as we get them knocked out.
thank you for the word, I love the green, I don't care what anyone else says. And I will put on my green, Andy Reid shirt tomorrow and wear it, so I will be supporting the Greens. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
Chris, seconds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all, see you tomorrow night at 6.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Thank you.
Well done.